Many of Orwell's earlier writings clearly indicate that he originally welcomed the prospect of a socialist revolution in the UK, and indeed hoped to himself take part in such a revolution. The concept of English socialism first appeared in Orwell's 1941 essay, The Lion and the Unicorn, Socialism and the English Genius, in which Orwell outlined a relatively humane revolution, establishing a revolutionary regime which will shoot traitors, but give them a solemn trial beforehand, and occasionally acquit them, and which will crush any open revolt promptly and cruelly, but will interfere very little with the spoken and written word. The English socialism, which Orwell foresaw in 1941, would even abolish the House of Lords, but retain the monarchy. In the novel, Winston Smith's memories and his reading of the prescribed book, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emanuel Goldstein, reveal that after the Second World War, the United Kingdom became involved in a war during the early 1950s in which nuclear weapons destroyed hundreds of cities in Europe, Western Russia and North America. Colchester was destroyed, and London also suffered widespread aerial raids, leading Winston's family to take refuge in a London Underground station. The United States absorbed the British Commonwealth and Latin America, resulting in the superstate of Oceania. The new nation fell into civil war, but who fought whom is left unclear. There is a reference to the child Winston having seen rival militias in the streets, each one having a shirt of a distinct color for its members. It is also unclear what the party's name was while there were more than one, and whether it was a radical faction of the British Labour Party or a new formation arising during the turbulent 1950s. Eventually, Ingsoc won and gradually formed a totalitarian government across Oceania. Orwell does not explain in the novel how the US came to embrace English socialism as its ruling ideology. In his lifetime, a socialist revolution was a concrete possibility in the UK, and taken seriously. But socialism of any kind was a marginal phenomenon in the United States. Meanwhile, Eurasia was formed when the Soviet Union conquered mainland Europe, creating a single state stretching from Portugal to the Bering Strait, under a neo-Stalinist regime. In effect, the situation of 1940 to 1944, the UK facing an enemy-held Europe across the Channel, was recreated, and this time permanently. Neither side contemplating an invasion. Their wars held in other parts of the world. Eastasia, the last superstate established, emerged only after a decade of confused fighting. It includes the Asian lands conquered by China and Japan. The book was written before the 1949 victory of Mao Zedong's Chinese Communist Party in the Civil War. Although Eastasia is prevented from matching Eurasia's size, its larger populace compensates for that handicap. While citizens in each state are trained to despise the ideologies of the other two as uncivilized and barbarous. Goldstein's book explains that in fact the superstates' ideologies are practically identical and that the public's ignorance of this fact is imperative so that they might continue believing otherwise. The only references to the exterior world for the Oceanian citizenry are propaganda and probably fake maps fabricated by the Ministry of Truth to ensure people's belief in the war. However, due to the fact that Winston only barely remembers these events as well as the party's constant manipulation of historical records, the continuity and accuracy of these events are unknown, and exactly how the superstates' ruling parties managed to gain their power is also left unclear. Winston notes that the party has claimed credit for inventing helicopters and aeroplanes, while Julia theorizes that the perpetual bombing of London is merely a false flag operation, designed to convince the populace that a war is occurring. If the official account was accurate, Smith's strengthening memories and the story of his family's dissolution suggest that the atomic bombings occurred first, followed by civil war featuring confused street fighting in London itself, and the societal post-war reorganization, which the party retrospectively calls the Revolution. It is very difficult to trace the exact chronology, but most of the global societal reorganization occurred between 1945 and the early 1960s. Winston and Julia meet in the ruins of a church that was destroyed in a nuclear attack 30 years earlier, which suggests 1954 as the year of the atomic war that destabilized society and allowed the party to seize power. It is stated in the novel that the fourth quarter of 1983 was also the sixth quarter of the ninth three-year plan, which implies that the first three-year plan began in 1958. By that same year, the party had apparently gained control of Oceania. Among other things, the revolution completely obliterates all religion, while the underground Brotherhood might or might not exist. There is no suggestion of any clergy trying to keep any religion alive underground. It is noted that, since the party does not really care what the proles think or do, they might have been permitted to have religious worship had they wanted to. But they show no such inclination. Among the manifestly absurd confessions extracted from thought criminals is religious belief. However, but no one takes this seriously. Churches have been demolished or converted to other uses. St. Martin in the Fields has become a military museum, while St. Clement Danes, destroyed in a World War II bombing, is in this future never rebuilt. The idea of a revolutionary regime totally destroying religion with relative ease is shared with the otherwise very different future of H. G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come.